Chromosomes. Little strands of nucleic acids and proteins are the fundamental genetic instructions that tell us who we are at birth. Most people are born with 46 chromosomes, but each year in the United States, about 6,000 people are born with an extra chromosome, making them a person with Down syndrome. If you've ever encountered someone with Down syndrome, you know that they are some of the kindest, most joyful people you will ever meet. They truly have something extra. My name is Lisa Nichols, and for 30 years I have been both the CEO of Technology Partners and the mother to Allie. Allie has something extra in every sense of the word. I have been blessed to be by her side as she impacts everyone she meets. Through these two important roles as CEO and mother to Allie, I have witnessed countless life lessons that have fundamentally changed the way I look at the world. While you may not have an extra chromosome, every leader has something extra that defines who you are. Join me as I explore the something extra in leaders from all walks of life and discover how that difference in each of them has made a difference in their companies, their families, their communities, and in themselves. If you like this episode today, please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and leave us a 5-star rating. Before we get started, I'm excited to share that my book, Something Extra, is now available. It is rooted in the remarkable spirit of our daughter, Allie, and the heartfelt conversations we've had on the podcast. You'll find wisdom and practical tools to ignite the leader within you and uncover your own something extra. Visit somethingextrabook.com or find it at Amazon or in all major bookstores to order your copy today. I'm excited to have Joe Pellegrino on the show today. Joe is the founder and president of Legacy Minded Ministries and not just an average Joe. Well, Joe Pellegrino, welcome to the Something Extra podcast. I am so delighted that we were able to make this work today.
Oh, Lisa, I'm so excited to be here.
It's going to be fun. You are filled with so much wisdom, and I hope that we're just going to get the tip of the iceberg. But what my hope is, Joe, that people will dig in further after this podcast and learn more. I mean, you've written 8 books. You're doing so many different things. So there's no way we're going to cover all of that, but I want to get through, as much as we can. I have to give a shout out to our mutual friend, Jim Bechtold.
Jim!
Yay, Jim Bechtold. We love you, Jim. Jim is the one that connected us and said the two of you need to know one another. So I am grateful for him. But let me just read just a little bit about your background for our listeners, and then we're going to get into all kinds of things. But Joe Pellegrino is a men's pastor, author, speaker, certified Maxwell leadership trainer, consultant, entrepreneur, and you were also a chaplain for baseball for the Jackals, right? You are the founder and president of Legacy Minded Ministries, which I really want to dig into. The mission is to transform lives by engaging, encouraging, and equipping men to build Christ-centered legacies. Joe also leads Not Just the Average Joe, providing coaching, innovative consulting services to individuals and businesses. You've been featured on Fox News, TBN, numerous national radio programs, Focus on the Family. We love Focus on the Family, Family Life Radio. So there's a lot to you, Joe. And like I said, we're going to try to get into it. But, before we get into everything, why don't you, because I think you grew up, correct, in New Jersey. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Take us back. What was life like? Early life like for you? What did you like to do as a little boy? Tell me about your family origin.
Well, I grew up in an Italian family with 4 sisters, and it was a little bit different kind of an Italian family. Normally, they're hugs and kisses and all that kind of stuff, and I really didn't experience a lot of that growing up. So, as the only boy, it was a little bit challenging, and I was very lonely as a kid. I had a lot of issues that I dealt with, and I recognized that it was really nice to have friends, but I didn't have real friends. And I grew up in a world, my own world, where because I couldn't be the person I wanted to be, I made up a whole thing in my head about who I was. And Lisa, one of the great challenges with that is when you tell so many lies, you start believing them. So to this day, I don't know what actually transpired in my youth, because I had this whole dream life, right? And it just wasn't true. So I have to always go to my sister and say, well, did that really happen? Or did that really happen? And it's kind of upsetting, but it's truth. It's what I was.
It's truth. And I think it's more common than we think. Because I've known people that have struggled with the same thing. And where were you in the birth order? Were you the baby, or where were you?
No, I was the fourth. Actually, my
Okay.
three older sisters are 15, 11, and 8 years older than me. I was not supposed to happen, nor was my sister who came literally right after me. So I was not supposed to happen. And it's funny because when I was born, my father made people wear masks around me and they called me baby Jesus because he finally got a boy, and it was, he was an older man at the time. He was 42, which today we wouldn't consider that old for a dad, but back then,
Hmm.
1962, it was very, very different. And I grew up with a dad who loved me and certainly took care of me, but he really wasn't a great teaching dad, if you know what I mean. He just wasn't really there. And so I never played ball with him that I recall. It was just a little bit of a disconnect, and when you don't have that connection with your dad, you generally look for it in other areas.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking to myself, where were you in the birth order? Because you really had four moms, I bet. Your older sisters were probably like moms too, right?
One of them, probably, yeah, not the other ones. It was kind of like two different families, Lisa. I mean, my three sisters, and when we talk, it seems like they had different parenting than me and my younger sister. And it's like when they tell me about my parents, I'm like, really? But that's what they experienced. So it was
Mhm.
literally two different families because most of the time my older sisters weren't in the house with me.
Right. Makes sense. It makes sense. Um, well, I know that you started your career like in publishing. How did that like shape? Yeah, and of course now you're an author. We've talked about that, but how did that shape your approach to ministry later on?
Actually, I started as an accountant. I was a staff accountant when I came out of college,
Okay.
and I always had the heart of an entrepreneur. So I would come in 2 hours early to that company, and they had this thing. It was called an IBM computer, and this IBM computer had this thing called Lotus 123 on it. And I had failed computers 3 times in college, Fortran and all that kind of stuff. But I figured if I come in and I break this thing, nobody's going to know because nobody's there. But I ended up becoming proficient at it, and I rewrote a lot of the management reports, and I got 2 promotions before anybody ever got one promotion in company history, and it was a $1 billion company at the time. So I learned that, and that became in love with computers, and I realized I need to get out of here and start getting some real world experience understanding the business world. So after 2 years of being a staff accountant and achieving what I could, I went up to small companies, and I met a guy who became my mentor, a man who was 10 years older than me. And what he would do is he literally left each job that I went to 6 months after I got there, and he would take me with me. He took me with him, and each time I got a huge raise. So at the age of 27, I'm making a lot of money, and I'm learning. And that's what then had me go on my own. And I was ill equipped to go on my own when I did. I made so many mistakes. I was broke. I had a wife and a baby, and I didn't know what to do. And that's when I met a friend who got me in the publishing world.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you told me about that.
Mhm.
So you finally did, I mean, not discounting your dad, but you finally did have a man that came along and taught you.
Yes, I did. And my wife
What a
asked me,
blessing.
yeah, she asked me, why are all your friends 10 years older than you? And I said, it's very simple because they walk down the roads that I'm going to walk. And I want to know all the potholes, all the cracks that I need to avoid. And I can't do it with my contemporaries. I can only do it with those who have walked that road. And that really changed everything for me.
That's powerful. That's powerful. We do need to have those people in our life that are going to be kind of. I've got a friend, Jeremy Kubicek, and he says you need Sherpas. You need Sherpas in your life, that are going to kind of lead and guide you. That should give people hope. Because you said you'd failed every computer class, but you learned it. You
Absolutely.
figured it out. So, we can move the needle on that. So, Joe, you describe yourself as a dash enhancer. I absolutely love that because, and explain, I mean, I know what it is, but explain what you mean by that to the listeners.
There are 2 dates that are the same for every person, not the calendar date, but a birth date and a death date. Those are 2 days in our lives, right? We cannot have any say in the birth date, and 99.9% of us don't have any say in our death date. However, there is a dash that separates those two, and that represents the life lived by that particular person. What the Lord has really shown me is that He has raised me up to be what I believe is a dash enhancer, which means that I need to be able to affect in a positive way the dash of all people that come into my view. Anybody that is requiring my assistance, I am required to enhance their dash, point them in the right direction, encourage them, teach them, mentor them, whatever that might be. But that dash means a lot to me because that dash is not only that person's dash, that dash will affect generations to come. So if transition and changes need to happen right now, that's where somebody like me, and I know it's somebody like you as well, be a dash enhancer because it is taking focus off of self and it's putting it on others. But it also trains you that leadership is essential, but leadership starts with self-leadership. You need to lead yourself well. And when you do and you're self-aware, you recognize that it's not about you. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's not about you. It's about
That's so
everybody
good.
else who
Mhm.
comes into your sphere of influence. And it is important that our life touches another life.
That is gold. That is gold. And I completely subscribe to that same idea that we are in leadership. And I say leadership is really stewardship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stewarding, like in your case, helping steward that dash and helping people maximize that dash. And, we're going to really talk about that because I love your 5.5 questions book. And, I feel like that is, a great place to start, but we'll talk about that. So I know that you founded Legacy Minded Men in 2009. Tell me about that.
So
Um,
Legacy Minded Men was founded because I my wife and I were operating a foundation called Adopt a Child, which provided abused children in New Jersey with gifts during Christmas. And we would arrange for, I owned a newspaper at the time, so we put it on the front page and we asked people to adopt kids. And the organization that we were working with gave us the name of the child, the age of the child, and their Christmas wish. And these people would adopt them for the Christmas season, wrap the gifts, label them properly. And then every Saturday in the month of November, people would bring those gifts and we had cars. It was unbelievable. In 11 years, we provided 20,000 children with over 50,000 gifts out of our home. We were the largest donor in the state of New Jersey. We were the Volunteers of the Year in the state of New Jersey in the year 2000. Yet I felt unfulfilled. And I believe the Lord started calling me and He's saying, Joe, men need help. You need help. You need to surround yourself with the right men. Start this. And I launched Legacy Minded Men. And Legacy Minded Men launched, as you mentioned, in June of 2009. We are now in 41 countries. We are content creators and providers. And Legacy Minded Men was then birthed a year ago into Legacy Minded Ministries because we felt that it wasn't just about the men. We were catering to men. We were educating men on what it means to be a Christ-centered, legacy-minded man. But at the same time, they have wives, they have children, they have brothers, they have sisters, whatever it might be. And we did not want to neglect them when they were coming to our site. So we wanted to provide them with legacy-minded everything. Legacy-minded women, legacy-minded youth, legacy-minded leaders, legacy-minded athletes, anything legacy-minded that not only we can do, but also teaming up, because I believe in strategic partnerships, Lisa. I believe in collaboration. We don't all have the answers, but the body of Christ is all about working together for the greater good of others. And that's what legacy minded is. So all of the legacy minded ministries have sub ministries, and those sub ministries could be, focus on the family for legacy minded families, etc. You get it. But the reality is, we don't have to be the experts. All we need to do is be the ones that are getting it out there.
Yeah, kind of the connector
The
with all
connector.
of that, right? The connector.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love that. Well, let me ask you, because you said, this, get the mission of helping men living these, Christ-centered life. What do you think are some of those biggest challenges right now? that men face, or you could say women too. I mean, either
I,
one.
I think it's both men and women. We are going through the greatest identity crisis in world history. There is an identity thief out there who is stealing the true identities of people. And that's really why I wrote the book, The 5.5 Questions Everyone Must Answer, because we've been indoctrinated to believe certain things about ourselves. We also have belief grafted from other people, meaning that we have taken on and adopted other people's belief systems as our own without ever putting them to the test. And at the end of the day, Lisa, the way I look at things is our belief system, that which we believe about our existence, who we are, that is foundational to every single thing in our life. Every decision we will make is built and linked to that foundation. And if that foundation is being built on sinking sand, we are in trouble for the rest of our lives. Why don't we put to the test our belief system? And to be very frank with you, I had to do this. And all I could find, if I may say so, is that Jesus Christ is the only way. He is exactly who he said. And that's the foundation I've chosen to build my life on and to share that good news. You know, people can accept or reject that. That's their choice. But
Right.
all I can do is what I believe I'm supposed to do. When you hear good news, you want to share good news with people. That's what it means to love people. That's truly what it means to love people, is to let them know that if you step out on that curb, you're going to get hit by that bus. Don't step on the curb. But it's
Right.
your choice. It's your choice.
Yeah. Well, it's your testimony,
It's your
right? It's your
testimony.
testimony,
Yeah.
and you see how that's transformed your life. And
Yes.
again, Joe, I just want to say we have listeners of all faiths,
Yep.
and you do not have to subscribe to that. Joe's just telling us what has worked for him, and it has
Exactly.
worked, and he has found that to be his truth. So
Mhm.
I love that you shared that. Um, well, let me ask you this, and I think that this is really important, and this is probably legacy minded men. I'm sure this is part of that, but accountability and community. How does that play in to this spiritual transformation that you are leading men through?
Let me say it this way. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The
That's
people that
good.
you surround yourself with, if you look at their lives, guess what? It's probably going to be your life too. Now, I want to have a little caveat, only if it's real, the real relationships. So I believe in the power of the inner circle. And the inner circle basically says who I let into my inner circle are the people that I want to learn from, what I want to grow from. I want these people to be the people that actually push me forward to get to where I'm supposed to be. But in truth, so many of our relationships are, well, they're crabs in a bucket. And what crabs in a bucket is, if you put crabs in a bucket when you catch them, almost always one will try to escape and the others will pull him back down. That's where most people fall short, is by surrounding themselves with the wrong people, and these wrong people are holding them back. I talked earlier about the person that was 10 years older than me so that I can learn. He genuinely wanted to see me grow and be all that I could be. And the reality is, most of us are a jealous breed. We don't want people to succeed, because then we have to look in the mirror and say, well, gee, I guess I got to work harder. I don't want to work harder. I'm so happy in my comfort zone. Well, guess what? Nothing great ever happens in a comfort zone. Maybe some relaxation, but that's it. We need to step out. We need to step out and be people of action, not people of talk, but people of action. And that action needs to be based on our foundational beliefs. And those foundational beliefs better be tested.
That's good. That is so good. Well, I kind of want to move in because, like I said, you've written 8 books, and I want to move into a few of these so that we can just talk about it. You've got Safe at Home. That was your very first book,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that was about baseball, right? That was when you were a
That was about
chaplain.
Christian baseball players. Yeah. And there's a great quick story I've got to tell, because
Oh,
we're
please
talking
do.
about, we talked earlier about not quitting and persevering. I wanted to write a book about Christian baseball players, but I had two problems. I couldn't write. And number two, I didn't know any of the players. Well, I solved the couldn't write part by finding a co-author who I still have not met to this day, 30 some years later, but he did the writing. I did all the recordings of the players on cassette tape. But the way I found about the players was this. It's an amazing story. I had a partner at the time who was a former Major League player, and he gave me something called the Major League Baseball Players Guide, which I consider to be the holy grail of baseball. It had everything A to Z, and the first thing that was listed was Baseball Chapel. And I noticed it was in Bloomingdale, New Jersey, which was 10 minutes from my house. I called the number, and the executive director's name was Dave Swanson. I said, "Hi, Mr. Swanson. My name is Joe Pellegrino. I love the Lord, and I want to write a book about Christian baseball players. Can you help me?" And he says, "Joe, why don't you call me in 3 months?" I look at the phone, I'm like, okay. I hang up. I call him in 3 months. "Joe, why don't you call me in 3 months?" I hang up. I call him back in 3 months. "Joe, why don't you call me in 3 months?" We are now 1 full year. 1 full year. And I said, "I'm going to call one more time." I call him up, and he says, "Joe, meet me at the Kinlawn Spa Diner, a diner down the street, in 20 minutes. I ran upstairs, put a suit on, bolted out the door. I get to the front of the diner, and there's this 6'3" bald man with a scowl on his face. And I said, "Mr. Swanson?" He simply nodded. He opened the door for me to go into the diner. And as I'm walking in, he hands me a piece of paper. He goes to the waitress. I quickly look on the paper. It was all the names of the major league players who attended Baseball Chapel on a Sunday. We're walking to the table. I couldn't wait. I grabbed him by the back of the shirt. I said, Mr. Swanson, why now?" He said, "Joe, sit down. My family owned Thomas English Muffins. I was in charge of purchasing. I never bought the first time a salesman came. I never bought the second time. I never bought the third time. But," he said, "if that guy persevered for that fourth time, he had a customer for life. You just did it." I went, wow. That
Wow.
man became my surrogate father, my mentor. He got me involved in Baseball Chapel, and he introduced me to so many incredible people. And it was because I didn't quit. I persevered. And that's a message I keep telling everybody. Don't quit. It's so easy to quit. It's so hard to persevere, but it's so worth getting over that mountain. The
Mm-hmm.
climb may be tough, but it's so easy. It's so great to get over that mountain.
That is a great lesson. Don't quit. Just because if you'd said, okay, I guess he, really just does not want to meet with me. Goodness gracious. That would have changed the trajectory of your life
I
because
would
you would
not be
have never.
speaking with you right now, Lisa,
Right.
if that didn't happen. I
Yeah.
promise you that.
Yeah. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I want to get into the book, 5.5 questions. We've already talked about this a little bit, but
Mhm.
it's 5.5 questions everyone must answer in search of purposeful identity. And I love this because you wrote it with your daughter Jennifer
Yes.
too, which is really how was that? How special was that?
She's a writer, and I had written the first book that was basically two Christian people. And then my daughter said, "Dad, this book will be far more effective if we just put it out for everybody." And she was right. And we ended up getting it into the worst school system in America, in Detroit. And it's for 5 years now being taught by two former NFL players and two former WNBA players very successfully. And it just excites me because I listened to her. She also wrote a full curriculum for schools that's incredibly in depth. And again, it just makes kids ask these questions because when you're
Mhm.
growing up, especially in middle school, you want to know the answer to these questions. But
Yes.
if you don't ever ask yourself, or more importantly, if you don't really dig in on these questions, because I can give a surface answer to any question, right, Lisa? But the reality is, when you're serious about transformation, when you're serious about finding out who you really are and why you really are, you're going to dig deep. And that's
Mhm.
that's what we hope for in this book.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, I'm just going to run through these real quick, but the 5.5 questions: what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are you passionate about? What is your brand? What do you believe? And then the half question is why. And then you've got purposeful identity. You've got a lot of other chapters in here as well. The power of attitude. That's what you had, is the power of attitude, not quitting, right? And the persevering. But I just think it's so good, Joe. And I've told you offline, what I love about this book is there are just tons of questions all throughout the book. And you and I had talked, and we're usually we usually are running about 200 miles an hour. We never take the time to ask ourselves these questions. And other people may not be asking us these questions either. So
That's
then,
right.
right. And I always say you got to have a meeting with yourself every now and then,
Yes.
and really kind of dig deep. But, how are you wired? What drives you? What do you really value? What are your values? I don't know that people really take the time to say,
Yes.
okay, is it faith? Is it family? Is it, what are my values?
Yeah.
Um, I love these on the right soil and food, what you're putting into your mind. You said, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you writing? How are you spending your downtime? What are you watching? That's all really important, right?
Hmm.
Because it informs some of the answers to those questions, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but what tell me about like the curriculum in the schools. What are you guys seeing with the schools that are using this the curriculum that Jennifer wrote?
Well, Jennifer actually was hired by a school to write the curriculum. So she was teaching and writing it at the same time. And the principal, who sent me a lovely testimonial, said, Joe, this is going to impact generations to come. And that's all I care about. Again, it's so amazing how one life touches another. And John Maxwell said it best when somebody asked him, he said, why do you write so many books? And John asked somebody, why do you write so many books? And the person said, because I can touch lives that I'll never, ever meet. I'll never meet these people, but
Mhm.
I can touch them through my words. And that just resonates with me so much. And that's why it's so important to me to share these things and recognize that, you know what? My life does matter. Your life does matter. Lisa, your life matters because of what you're doing as well. The truth of the matter is, everybody has greatness in them. It's how to pull that greatness out of you. That's where you need the help most of the time. That's where I needed the help.
Yeah.
And to find out who I really was, purposeful identity. We all exist because we want purpose in life. When we have this giant hole in us that can't be filled because we don't have that purpose. We don't know who we are. And that's why the book was written. So the curriculum is simply designed to get people thinking, specifically kids, and get them thinking and asking questions.
I
And I think
love
it's
it.
a great thing.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so grateful that you're starting with kids
Mm.
because, maybe they won't get to be our age, Joe,
That's
still
right.
trying to figure it out, right?
That's right.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have a lot more that I want to talk about, but we do need to take a quick break and we'll be right back on the Something Extra podcast with Joe Pellegrino.
In business, the tendency is to seek out partners who are bigger, faster, stronger. When it comes to IT, you should be looking for smarter, faster, better. That's just what you'll find with the talented technologists at Technology Partners. Our experts develop custom solutions to tackle your most complex challenges, all to simplify your processes in the smartest, most efficient way possible. The time to be swift and nimble starts now. Go to technologypartners.net/solutions and see what's possible.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with Joe Pellegrino. We have just been having an amazing conversation. Joe is so wise and has so much inspiration to share with you guys. And I'm really excited about everything that you guys are going to learn from this episode here. But Joe is a father and grandfather. You got 3 grown children, right? And 4 grandchildren. What have you learned, Joe, about leaving a spiritual legacy for your family?
I've learned what not to do. I've made so many mistakes. I've learned what not to do. But I can tell you this: when we talk about a spiritual legacy, we have to first look at the word legacy, which is often misunderstood. Legacy, by definition, is anything that is bequeathed to somebody else, whether it be property or cash or whatever it might be. That's leaving something to someone. I like a better definition. I think a powerful legacy is not just what we leave to someone, but what we leave in someone. Here's why. If I leave something to someone, whether it's a business or finances or whatever, it's known that in a generation and a half, it's gone. Why? Well, I believe it's because that person didn't really appreciate it. They didn't build it. They didn't sweat and toil. They simply enjoyed it. And therefore, when you're enjoying something, a lot of times you don't steward it well and you let it go. However, when you sow into somebody, legacy, real powerful legacy inside someone, it is generational. It changes the game. And that's where I want to be. So I recognized at one point that I was not going down the right road. I was not the man that God built me to be. And I needed to change. And it wasn't easy. Like I said, I told so many lies when I was a kid that to this day, I don't know what actually happened. So when my life changed, my family, my parents and my sisters, they didn't really believe that I was changing because I was a con man. I was a thief. I was a liar. I was a cheat. That's what I was. And now I'm this different guy. And it took years for people to recognize that, well, maybe this isn't another scam. Maybe this isn't another act. But, it's worth it. Everything was worth it because of what God is doing now in me. And looking at my family and seeing who the people that they are, that is incredible to me. I mean, I could get welled up just thinking about my family and just, I mean, I love them so much and the people that they are. It's just incredible. So, legacy is we're all writing a legacy. We are all writing one right now. The great news is if your legacy stinks, it can change
Yes.
today. Today could be the day you change that legacy.
That is so good. That is so good. Yeah, it's not what you leave to someone, it's what you leave in them.
Yep.
And the cool thing about that, it's not just your family. Joe, it's everyone that is in your sphere of influence. You can
Yep.
leave a legacy in that person by depositing good things in them. I love that so much. Well, you and Bethany have been married for at least what, 39 years, almost 40 years?
Yeah,
Uh,
Beth and I are going to be married 40 years next year, which is unbelievable to me. But yes, 40 years, 3 grown children, 4 grandchildren, 1 on the way.
Oh my goodness. How wonderful is that? Well, you got to start planning something, Joe,
We
really
are.
big, really big.
We
Yeah,
are.
I'll give you a little nugget. I've got a
Okay.
really dear friend and he planned, it was like their 30th, and he planned something every day for 30 days. And it's like, all of the guys are like, you're setting us all up for, failure here. But it was cool. It was cool. He called it a palooza, the 30-day palooza.
Well, I
But
can tell you something that I did for my wife's 60th birthday. The 60 days before her birthday, every day on the mirror, I would scribble something I loved about her on a sticky note, and I put it on the mirror for her to see for 60 days. So we did a 60-day countdown. That's how I did
oh,
it.
that is wonderful. Well, tell me this, and then I've got a couple other questions for you that I'm anxious to dig into. But what's your best advice for building a Christ-centered marriage?
Well, honestly, we've had rocky roads, we've had challenges, but I think the line of communication is extraordinarily important. But first and foremost, it's understanding that marriage is a journey, not a destination. That there are going to be changes, there are going to be struggles. I mean, think about it. 2 families are coming together and they're colliding. And as it was for
Yeah.
my wife and I, my wife came from a big Italian family. I did too, but we were quiet. They weren't. So we swept things under the rug. They talked about things,
Mhm.
so 2 worlds colliding. It's a journey. And you have to recognize that you're in it for the long haul, and I'm not going anywhere. We're going
Mhm.
to be here no matter what. So let's make this work and let's have some fun doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And I tell people all the time, if people tell you that there's not issues or problems, they're either lying to you or they're sweeping
Absolutely.
stuff under the rug and not dealing with it, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
Because
Yes,
there's
ma'am.
no perfect, but it's that commitment to go, no, we're here and we're going to
Yep.
make it work, right? So I
Yes.
love that. This is really, I'm anxious to hear what you say about this because you wrote Fathers Say, the book Fathers Say, and it's really about giving the gift of a blessing over your children. What have you learned about the words that we say? I mean, I love what you gave our listeners an idea. I love what you did with your wife, and just putting those little post-its on there about what you love about her, but the power of our words, either negative or positive, right, Joe, can make the biggest difference, change the trajectory of someone's life, truly.
We have to first of all break the mold here and say there's a blessing and there are words of encouragement. Words of
Mhm.
encouragement is you're great, you're a great player, you're this and that. Words of blessing are different. Words of blessing are raining down God's blessing on another person. It's asking to bless them. And I learned this through one of our Legacy Minded Men conferences where a gentleman who was my worship leader, he was up there and he said to me, Joe, would you allow me to do something different? And I said, what is it? He said, just trust me. His father was a famous salsa player, very famous. And he was on an album cover of his that had him showing like a Superman S on his chest. And he was talking about his dad, and he was saying, everybody loved my dad, but I never really got a lot of his time, and I never really received a blessing from him. And he said, today, I want to offer you, meaning the crowd, the ability to get a blessing. And we called a bunch of pastors and leaders to the front of the room, and we asked people to come forward. Lisa, 95% of the men jumped up and ran to receive a blessing. So many of them crying. I remember one man not being able to get out of his seat because he was bawling his eyes out because he was reflecting on his negative relationship with his father. Young, old, 70 years old, didn't matter. And I realized, oh my goodness, this is powerful. And so then I decided to reach out to a guy who wrote a book called The Blessing. His name is Dr. John Trent. And John, I said, John, how about we team up and let's take what you wrote 30 years ago that impacted my life, and let's do something really cool and do Blessing Day, where we challenge people to bless their children, grandchildren, and those they're mentoring. And do it not only face to face, but record it on video so that they have your words and they can look in your eyes for all time. So if you do it before they go to college, when they go down that bad road that they might travel down, they can always have the words to come back to. When you're no longer there, they can always have your words. When you're no longer there and they have children of their own, they can pass grandpa's message of blessing right down the line. That's the power of the blessing. And we're hoping to make the Sunday before Thanksgiving every year National Blessing Day. And we've asked the President of the United States to sign a proclamation to do just that.
Oh, I hope you get that passed. That is so powerful. I love that so much. Wow. Well, okay. So I love what you say about this. Talking about legacy. You said life is God's gift to us. The legacy you leave behind is your gift to him.
Yep. I believe that.
Beautiful.
Without a doubt.
I do too.
Life is a gift. No matter what our circumstances in life are, it's a gift. And we talked about attitude before. I want to share something about attitude that maybe you or your audience hasn't heard before. But attitude to me is a divine word. Why? At least in the English language it is. Because if you take the word and spell it out, ATTITUDE, and you put the numeric value to each one of those letters, A being 1, T being 20, etc., and you add it up, it equals 100. And the reason why that is so powerful to me is because we talk about giving 110%. There's no such thing. The maximum effort anybody can give is 100%. However, you can give 90, you can give 70, and you can give 50. So attitude, which is the only thing we can control in our lives, is attitude.
Yes.
Our response to any situation is the only thing we can control. So if we get this understanding that attitude, if we're positive, if we recognize I'm going to give 100% of my attitude, watch what happens around you. You will be so incredibly attractive to people. They're going to be drawn to you. They're going to want to know what you know because it's a difference maker.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's what makes you a dash enhancer, when you have the right attitude, understanding that I am not first. As a matter of fact, I'm not even second. I'm third. In my book, and this is me, everybody has their own, God first, family second, and everybody else actually second, and me last. I want to be able to bless other people. And that's why the dash enhancer is so important to me.
That is so cool. I love that you figured that out. The 100. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Because we can't even control the events that happen in our life sometimes, right? But Joe, we can control our response.
That's correct.
To those.
And by the way, I did not figure that out. Somebody else shared
it.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I know whoever did that, we're giving credit to you, but I love that. I will not forget that. Well, this one is just so, this is not just for men, but this is like for everybody. We live in a very digitally connected world, but sometimes relationally disconnected. What do you have to say about that? And how do you coach men or women on this, Joe? Because boy, it's I worry really even about our kids today,
Yep.
with how digitally they're connected, but then not being able to hold a face-to-face conversation.
Think about this. We are born to be relational. We are born to be relational. Your gifts are not my gifts. Your weaknesses are not my weaknesses. Your passions are not my passions. The reality is, we need others to help us achieve what we need to achieve. And when you sit in front of a screen or playing games all day, you're interacting with something that is not real. And you first of all will lose your identity in something like that. You certainly will not understand what your purpose is, because you can really never understand what your true purpose is until you know what your true identity is. That's what purposeful identity is. It's all understanding that identity feeds and fuels purpose. As a matter of fact, I call this convergence. When you take the strengths that you've been given and you take the passion that you have and you have that intersecting point, it usually will point directly to what your purpose in life is. As a matter, it comes to a point. It's a place of convergence, yet we rarely look at that. And in order to achieve that, we need to recognize there are certain people that will help fill those holes that we have. Those relationships are extraordinarily important. Curb your understanding and use of social media. Curb your gaming and understand that there are real people out there, real people that you may not want to really associate with right now because you don't think they want to associate with you. But you know what? We're all different and we're all unique. We're all different. We're all unique, but we all need each other.
Mm-hmm.
That is extremely powerful. If
Right.
somebody disagrees with you on something, respect their decision. Ask questions about what they believe, why they believe it, and have a discussion instead of some presupposed or preconceived notion that they're wrong and they're evil and they're haters and they're this. That's just not the case most of the time. But if we ask questions,
Yes.
we get to know people. When we get to know people, it takes down all the guards and
Mm-hmm.
we start having relationship.
Yeah.
We're all different.
I'm glad that you said that, Joe, because I feel the same way about that. I kind of go back to Covey, seek to understand, right? The only way you can understand is if you will sit there and ask the questions,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
yeah, I think that that's where relationship is truly solidified.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to talk about something extra. You got something really exciting that you're working on now, something that I had not really heard about, and it's all about baseball. Tell our listeners real quickly about that, and then I want to talk about something extra.
Yeah, we're looking to create some digital baseball cards for players who want to share their faith. And those digital baseball cards are high quality cards that we equip the players with to give out to fans. They sign them and give them out. On the back of the card is a QR code, which will take them to a website where the player will share their testimony. They'll share their life and they'll share all the different experiences that they've had. At the same time, we'll be able to share other players' testimonies as they go onto that site. And that will lead us to something we call Travel Chapel, where the same player that's giving the testimony will also give us several stories from their lives, and we'll match that story with a message that we'll be able to deliver to kids who can't go to church on Sunday. And they'll be able to get a digital download of a church service, if you will, that's led by the player and somebody like, well, me. And the reality is it helps kids connect, understanding, helping build their faith and giving them really encouraging words. So we're real excited about that. That's scheduled to launch in spring of 2026. So we're waiting to hear final details on that, but we do expect that to happen.
That is so cool. I love that. I had not heard of anything like that. And I'm thinking in my mind, because I'm kind of a connector, I'm thinking, I need to connect Joe and this person. So we'll talk about that offline. Well, Joe, this is called Something Extra. And this is the question that I ask every one of my guests. What do you believe is the something extra that every leader needs?
It's very simple. We've already touched on two of the pieces, but I believe there's three that are connected. The first one is attitude. Have the right attitude. Attitude is incredibly important. And again, only thing we can control. When we have the right attitude, it will connect us to that dash enhancer within us that we ignite, we get excited about, and we recognize that life is not about it's not our own. It's to be lived properly and to be lived for others. And when you understand those two components, it'll lead to what I consider to be the most powerful type of leadership, which is legacy-minded leadership. Understanding that I am going to share with my team. Like, for example, one of my goals with my team is I will actually, you know how we have annual reviews for our employees? I'll have an annual review for me. And I'll ask my employees, how can I serve you better?
Mm-hmm.
Because I truly believe in steward leadership. Leading by being a good, solid steward and understanding that I want to serve you. I want to be a servant leader. And how can I best do that for you? How can I get you to a place that's better than me? How can you become a better leader than I am? Because I am not a great leader. I want you to be better. And that's the key. So I think it starts with attitude, which unlocks the dash enhancer in us that helps us to become a legacy-minded leader and rule under legacy-minded leadership.
That's beautiful. Well, Joe, this has been so much fun. I seriously think that we could do a 5-hour podcast and not run out of things to talk about. But we won't do that to our listeners. Maybe we'll do a part 2 down the road. But listeners, I mean, I hope that you have just garnered so much wisdom and insights here. Go and follow Joe. Look at what he's doing. Go to the website. Get his books. He's got 8 books out there. Like I said, I've got the 5 questions, 5.5 questions that everyone must answer, and it's really fantastic. So I just know the rest of them are the same way. And Joe, thank you so much for making Lisa, the time to be on the show.
Thank you. God bless you.
Yes, you too.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc. 2019. For show notes or to reach Lisa, visit tpi.co/podcast. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you listen.